Hey, my name's Joel. I'm 25 and I do whatever odd jobs pop up in the upscale neighborhoods on the edge of Portland, Oregon. Painting fences, fixing leaky pipes, hanging curtains, patching drywall, whatever pays cash at the end of the day. I live in a shoebox studio above an old auto shop that's been closed longer than I've been alive. Rent's cheap, the walls are thin, and the only thing that smells worse than the hallway is the microwave dinners I heat up most nights. My fridge usually holds two things: a half empty jar of peanut butter and whatever beer was on sale. Life's not glamorous, but I'm used to it. I wasn't always scraping by. Back in high school, I had a best friend, Dylan. We were inseparable. Same classes, same dumb jokes, same dreams of getting out of our nothing town. Dylan's older sister, Rachel, was the opposite of us. 10 years older, sharp-tongued, and already a middle school teacher by the time we were juniors. She had this way of looking at you like she could see every mistake you were about to make. I was the kid who skipped class to smoke behind the gym, and she never let me forget it. One time, right in front of Dylan, she laid into me. "You're dragging him down, Joel. You'll never amount to anything." Her words stuck like burrs. I laughed it off then, but they followed me for years. Dylan moved away senior year. His dad got a job in Seattle. After that radio silence, no texts, no visits, no nothing. Rachel became a ghost in my rearview mirror, a memory I filed under people who were right to write me off. I figured I'd never hear her voice again. Until last Tuesday. It was one of those gray, relentless Portland afternoons where the rain doesn't pour, it just hangs in the air, soaking everything slow. I was elbow deep in a clogged sink at some McMansion in West Hills when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but the lady of the house was watching me like I might steal her silver, so I wiped my hands and answered. "Joel." The voice on the other end was low familiar in a way that made my stomach drop. "It's Rachel. Rachel Carter. Dylan's sister." I froze, wrench still in my hand. Water dripped onto my boot. For a second I thought it was a prank. Dylan pulling some long con joke from wherever he was now. But the pause on the line was too real, too heavy. "My water heater's out," she continued, like she hadn't just detonated a bomb in my head. The guy I called flaked. "You still do repairs, right? I'll pay cash." I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again. Yeah, I can come by." Today, a beat. It's just me and the dog, and the hot water's been dead since yesterday. I glanced at the sink at the homeowner hovering in the doorway. Cash was cash. And something in Rachel's voice, tired not sharp, made me say yes before I could think it through. "Text me the address," I said. "I'll be there in an hour." She hung up without a thank you. The screen went dark, and I stood there, dripping, wrench in hand, heart thudding like I'd just run stairs. Rachel Carter, the woman who once told me I'd peak at pumping gas, calling me for help. I finished the sink job on autopilot, collected my $50, and drove through the rain, with the wipers on full blast. The address she sent was in Laurelhurst, big houses, old trees, the kind of neighborhood where kids ride bikes without helmets and nobody locks their doors. I pulled up to a two-story Craftsman with white trim and a porch light already on, even though it was barely 4. Lavender bushes lined the walk, soaked and drooping. A golden retriever barked once from inside, then went quiet. I grabbed my toolbox from the truck, slung it over my shoulder, and stood under the awning rain, drumming on the metal roof. My reflection in the glass door looked like a drowned rat, faded Carhartt jacket, wet hair plastered to my forehead, 3-day stubble. I raised my hand to knock. The door opened before my knuckles hit wood. Rachel stood there, and for a second I forgot how to breathe. She wasn't the severe teacher in my memory. Her hair was longer, pulled back in a messy knot, strands escaping around her face. She wore an oversized cream sweater that slipped off one shoulder, and faded jeans with a hole at the knee. No makeup. Dark circles under her eyes. She looked human. "Joel," she said like she was testing the name. Her voice was softer than I remembered, but it still carried that edge. "Come in before you drown." I stepped inside, boots squeaking on the hardwood. The house smelled like cedar and something citrusy. The dog, a big golden with a graying muzzle, sniffed my leg, once then flopped down by the fireplace. "Basement's this way," Rachel said, already turning. She didn't look back to see if I followed. I did. Toolbox clanking, heart still racing. The past was a locked door I thought I'd thrown away the key for. Apparently, she still had a copy. I followed her down the narrow staircase, the wood creaking under my boots like it was complaining about the extra weight. The basement was finished, clean, concrete floor, recessed lights, shelves lined with labeled plastic bins. A far cry from the damp crawl spaces I usually worked in. The water heater sat in the corner, a sleek tankless model that probably cost more than my truck. A red error light blinked on the digital panel. Rachel stopped a few feet away, arms crossed, watching me, like she was waiting for me to prove something. I set the toolbox down and popped it open, the metal latches echoing in the quiet. Error code E13, I said, glancing at the display. Usually the flow sensor. Shouldn't take long. She nodded but didn't move. The silence stretched thick as the humidity in the air. I could feel her eyes on me while I worked unscrewing the panel, checking the wiring, testing the sensor with my multimeter. My hands moved on muscle memory, but my brain was stuck on the last time I'd seen her. Senior year. Dylan's basement. Her standing at the top of the stairs, arms folded just like now, telling me I was a waste of his time. "You still play guitar?" she asked suddenly. I paused, probe hovering over a wire. "What Dylan said, you were good. Before you quit the talent show," I snorted. That was a lifetime ago. Still have the calluses. I flexed my left hand, the faint ridges visible under the grime. Some things don't wash off. She didn't smile, but something shifted in her expression. Curiosity, maybe. Or regret. I finished the repair in 8 minutes flat, cleaned the sensor, reset, the unit ran a hot water test. The error light blinked off. Water hissed through the pipes overhead. "Done," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "You've got flow. Should hold." Rachel stared at the panel like she hadn't expected it to actually work. "That was fast." "Told you, 10 minutes. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a folded bill. 100. More than I'd quoted. "Keep the change," she said. "For the rain." I took it, our fingers brushing for half a second. Her skin was warm. Mine was still cold from the driveway. I started packing up, the clink of tools loud in the quiet. The rain had picked up outside, hammering the small basement window like it wanted in. I zipped the toolbox and stood. "Storm's getting worse," she said, glancing up the stairs. "Roads'll be slick. You'll hydroplane before you hit the highway. I've got chains. You've got bald tires. I saw them when you pulled in." I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. She wasn't wrong. "You can wait it out," she said. Living room's dry. I've got coffee or tea, whatever." I hesitated. The smart thing was to leave. Get in the truck, drive slow. Forget this ever happened. But the rain was a roar now, and the 100 in my pocket felt heavier than it should. "Coffee's fine," I said. She nodded and headed upstairs without another word. I followed, boots leaving wet prints on the steps. The living room was warmer than I expected. Hardwood floors, a brick fireplace with a low fire, crackling bookshelves stuffed with paperbacks and ceramic mugs. A record player in the corner, vinyl sleeves stacked neatly. The dog lifted its head, thumped its tail once, then went back to sleep. Rachel disappeared into the kitchen. I stood awkwardly by the couch, dripping on her rug. She came back with 2 mugs, handed me one. Black. No sugar. Exactly how I used to drink it in Dylan's garage. "You remembered," I said. "I remember a lot of things." She sat in an armchair, legs tucked under her. I took the couch, leaving a careful distance. The fire popped. Rain lashed the windows. We didn't speak for a full minute, maybe 2. The kind of silence that's not empty, it's loaded. Finally, I set the mug down. "Why'd you call me?" She didn't look up from her tea. "Because you show up. No excuses, no, 'I'll swing by tomorrow.' You just come. That's it. That's everything." I leaned forward, elbows on knees. "You told me I'd never amount to anything. I know. You said it in front of Dylan, like it was a fact. I know. So why? Because I was wrong." She met my eyes then. Steady. And I've had 10 years to sit with that. The fire crackled. The dog sighed in its sleep. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. The silence stretched longer this time, not heavy but deliberate, like we were both testing how much space 10 years could fill. I picked up the mug again just to have something to do with my hands. The coffee was strong, bitter in the way that wakes you up more than comforts. Rachel stared into the fire, the flames painting shifting gold on her face. The sweater had slipped further off her shoulder. She didn't fix it. I broke first. You still teach, I asked. She shook her head. Left the district 3 years ago. Too many meetings, not enough kids. A small, tired smile. Now I edit textbooks from home. Pays better, nobody grades my sarcasm. I huffed a laugh to spite myself. Bet the kids miss that. Some do. She set her mug on the coffee table, a low wooden thing scarred with water rings and candle wax. Others probably threw parties. Another pause. The rain eased to a steady patter, but the gutters still overflowed, dripping like a broken metronome. She shifted, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. You hungry, starving? Figured. You always were after fixing something. She stood padded to the kitchen in sock feet. I followed, not sure why. The kitchen was all warm light and white subway tile. A pot already simmered on the stove, garlic, tomato, basil. She stirred with a wooden spoon, not looking at me. Pasta's almost done. Sit. I obeyed, sliding onto a stool at the island. She plated 2 bowls spaghetti, simple red sauce, a sprinkle of parmesan that smelled like it came from a block, not a green can. She slid one across to me. We ate in silence, at first the clink of forks loud. The sauce was better than anything I'd tasted in months. Halfway through, she spoke without looking up. I kept the yearbook. I paused, fork midair. Which one, senior year? Dylan's copy. You're in the candid section behind the gym, cigarette behind your ear, pretending to tune a guitar that wasn't plugged in. I snorted. God, delete that. Never. She finally met my eyes. I used to flip to it when I was mad at the world. Reminded me people surprise you. I set the fork down. You were mad at me. I was mad at everything. Dylan was spiraling. Mom was sick. I thought if I controlled the narrative, I could fix it. She pushed a meatball around her plate. Turns out you can't fix people. You just break yourself trying. The admission hung there. I didn't know what to do with it. She stood, took our bowls to the sink. I followed instinct more than thought. Our hands brushed, reaching for the same sponge. She didn't pull away. I'm sorry, she said, voice low. For what I said. For how I said it. You didn't deserve that. The words were simple, but they landed like a punch to the sternum. I'd carried them for a decade, a weight I didn't realize was still there until it lifted. I forgave you a long time ago, I said. Just didn't know how to say it. She turned off the water, dried her hands on a dish towel. The kitchen light caught the faint lines around her eyes, laugh lines, worry lines, all of them earned. Stay tonight, she said. Storm's not letting up. Couch is yours, I've got blankets. I should have said no. Should have grabbed my keys, thanked her for dinner, driven home slow. But the rain was a curtain now, and the house smelled like garlic and cedar, and something I couldn't name. Okay, I said. She nodded once like it was decided. Then she reached past me, opened a drawer, pulled out a worn photo. Me and Dylan, arms slung around each other, grinning like idiots at some long-forgotten bonfire. The edges were soft from handling. I kept this too, she said. Figured one day I'd need to remember I wasn't always right. I took it, thumb brushing the glossy surface. You weren't, I said, but you're not wrong now. She smiled, small, real, and for the first time since I'd walked through her door, the air between us didn't feel like a battlefield. She handed me a folded quilt from the hallway closet, soft flannel, faded navy, and gray plaid, and pointed to the couch like it was the most natural thing in the world. I took it, still holding the old photo between 2 fingers. The dog patted over, sniffed the quilt, then flopped down on the rug with a sigh that sounded like surrender. Rachel disappeared upstairs. I heard a door close, water run, then silence. The fire had burned down to embers. I added 2 logs from the brass bucket beside the hearth. The flames caught, quick crackling like they had something to say. I spread the quilt, kicked off my boots, and sat. The couch was deep, the cushions worn just enough to feel lived in. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from the sink lady asking if I'd left her faucet dripping. I ignored it. The house smelled like tomato sauce and wood smoke now, and for the first time in years, I wasn't calculating how many hours I had to sleep before the next job. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. Then another. Soft footsteps on the stairs. Rachel appeared in the doorway barefoot wearing an oversized University of Oregon t-shirt and the same jeans. Her hair was down damp at the ends. She held 2 bottles of water. "Figured you'd be thirsty," she said, setting one on the coffee table. She didn't sit in the armchair this time. She sat on the opposite end of the couch, knees pulled up, bottle cradled in both hands. We didn't speak for a while. The fire did the talking. Outside, the rain had settled into a steady rhythm, the kind that makes you feel like the world's on pause. She broke it first. "You ever think about Dylan every day?" I said. "Wonder where he ended up? If he's still playing that awful bass." She laughed, quiet, surprised, like she hadn't meant to. "He texts sometimes. Lives in Tacoma now, married. Kid on the way. Good for him." "Yeah." She twisted the cap off her water, took a sip. "He asked about you last Christmas. Wanted your number." I told him I didn't have it. I raised an eyebrow. "You could have looked me up." I did. She didn't look at me. "Found your repair page? 1-star review from some guy who said you overcharged for a toilet flange." That was Mrs. Henderson. She wanted solid gold. Another laugh. Softer this time. The fire popped. A log shifted. Sparks flew up the chimney. She set the bottle down. "I kept thinking you'd turn out exactly how I said. Broke. Bitter. Stuck." She turned to face me fully. "Instead, you're here. Fixing things. Showing up." "I'm still broke," I said. "But not bitter." I shrugged. "Takes too much energy." She studied me, head tilted. "You grew up. So did you." The words hung there. Not flirtation, something deeper. Recognition. She scooted closer, not touching, just closing the gap between us on the couch. The quilt bunched between us like a border neither of us wanted to cross yet. "I used to think strength was never needing anyone," she said. "Turns out it's letting them stay when they do." I didn't answer with words. I reached over, brushed a damp strand of hair from her cheek. She didn't flinch. Her skin was warm, softer than I expected. She leaned in first. Slow. Deliberate. Like she'd decided something upstairs and was done second-guessing. Our lips met, no urgency, just contact. Her hand found my jaw, thumb tracing the stubble. I tasted toothpaste and the faint trace of red wine she must have had after dinner. We pulled back an inch. Forehead still touching. "This okay?" she whispered. "Yeah," I breathed. "More than." She kissed me again, deeper this time. The quilt slipped to the floor. The dog didn't stir. We didn't go upstairs. We stayed on the couch, tangled in flannel and firelight. Hands exploring like teenagers, but slower, like we both knew rushing would break whatever this was. Her t-shirt rode up. My calloused palm found the soft skin of her lower back. She shivered, not from cold. At some point, the fire burned low. We lay side by side, her head on my chest, my arm around her waist. The rain had stopped. The only sound was our breathing and the occasional pop from the hearth. She traced a scar on my forearm, old burn from a radiator job gone wrong. "You kept all of them," she murmured. "Proof I showed up," I said. She pressed her lips to it. Once. Gentle. We didn't sleep much. Talked instead, quiet half sentences. About her divorce. About the night she found the text. About the year she stopped leaving the house except for groceries. About the candles she started making because the scent of cedar reminded her of her dad's workshop. About the dog buddy who showed up on her porch 3 winters ago and never left. I told her about the jobs that paid in IOUs. About the guitar I still tuned but never played for anyone. About the way her words used to wake me up at 3 a.m., replaying like a bad track. "I'm glad you're here," she said at some point, voice thick with sleep. "Me too." The sky outside turned from black to graphite. Buddy stretched nails clicking on the hardwood. Rachel's breathing evened out against my chest. I didn't move. Didn't want to. The couch was too small, the quilt on the floor, the fire dead. But for the first time in years, I wasn't counting hours until the next job. I was just here. The first hint of dawn slipped through the blinds and thin gray bars painting stripes across the quilt we'd dragged back onto the couch sometime before sleep finally took us. Buddy's tail thumped once against the rug when the light hit his face. He yawned, stretched, and padded to the front door like he had a schedule to keep. Rachel stirred against my shoulder, her breath warm on my neck. Coffee, she mumbled, not opening her eyes. I eased out from under her, careful not to jostle the arm that had gone numb hours ago. The kitchen was cold. The floorboards chilled my bare feet. I found the grinder in the second cabinet, beans in the freezer, dark roast whole, no label. The machine hissed and gurgled like it approved. Rachel appeared in the doorway, hair a wild halo, wearing my flannel shirt, now sleeves rolled to her elbows. "You look better in it," I said. "Don't get used to it." She stole the first mug black and leaned against the counter. Steam curled between us. We drank in silence, watching the sky shift from graphite to pale rose. Buddy whined at the door. Rachel set her cup down, clipped a leash to his collar, and opened the front door. The air smelled like wet pine and wetter earth. The street was empty, puddles reflecting the sky like broken mirrors. I followed them onto the porch. The lavender bushes dripped. A single car rolled past, slow, headlights still on. Rachel unhooked Buddy. He trotted down the steps, sniffed the grass, then looked back at us like he was waiting for permission to exist. She turned to me. "You don't have to leave. I've got a leaky faucet in Beaverton at 9. I've got a kitchen light that flickers when the fridge kicks on." I smiled. "That's a 5-minute fix. Then stay 5 minutes." I stepped closer, brushed a leaf from her hair. And after we figure it out. One repair at a time. Buddy barked once at a squirrel. The sun broke over the rooftop, spilling gold across the wet lawn. Rachel's hand found mine, fingers threading like they'd done it 1,000 mornings before this one. I didn't kiss her. Didn't need to. The moment was enough quiet, ordinary hours. Inside, the coffee cooled. The photo of me and Dylan still sat on the coffee table, edges softer now. I picked it up, slipped it into my pocket. Rachel watched, didn't ask why. When I finally grabbed my key, she walked me to the truck. The rain had left the air clean sharp. My boots crunched on gravel. "Text me when you're done with Beaverton," she said. "Will do." She stood on the bottom step, arms crossed, flannel swallowing her frame. The porch light was still on, useless now, but neither of us moved to turn it off. I backed out, slow tires hissing on wet asphalt. In the rearview, she stayed there, one hand raised in a small wave, Buddy sitting beside her like a sentinel. The house shrank, then disappeared around the corner. My phone buzzed before I hit the main road. Rachel light still flickering. I smiled, thumbs tapping. Joel on my way. The road ahead was slick, the sky wide open. For the first time in years, I wasn't counting the miles to the next job. I was counting the minutes until I turned around.